Madeline Rowan never wanted to be the center of attention. She was the kind of woman who smiled gently at strangers, who preferred secondhand bookshops over rooftop parties, and who quietly carried herself through life with grace so subtle, most people missed it. But on a brutal Friday afternoon in downtown Chicago, inside the chrome and glass fortress of Valor Marketing Group, she was dragged from her corner of peace into the blinding center of cruelty. It started with a hiss comment from a desk nearby. "You look like someone's mom at a PDA meeting," sneered Clarissa Vaughn, an account executive with stilettos sharp enough to cut glass and a heart to match. A few desks away, Darren Knox's self-impressed sales rep, who seemed to think gel was a substitute for character snorted loud enough to draw attention. "More like someone's maid," he added, tossing a look at her scuffed flats. Madeline didn't flinch. She tucked a loose strand of chestnut brown hair behind her ear, lowered her gaze, and typed her final data line into the presentation slides. It wasn't the first time, and she doubted it would be the last. When Madeline first walked into Valor 6 months earlier, fresh from a quiet data science role at a nonprofit, she'd sensed the difference immediately. The place pulsed with competition, power plays dressed as brainstorms, and a brand of ego masked as excellence. She had worn a soft gray cardigan and corduroy trousers that first day, and the air-conditioned halls had felt 20 degrees colder than her last job. Valor, a top-tier marketing agency under the umbrella of the sprawling Rothwell Group, was known for its glossy campaigns and even glossier staff. It was also known, less publicly, for its unspoken caste system enforced not by merit, but by wardrobe, pedigree, and which bar you were seen at after 8 p.m. Madeline, with her thrift store tote and thermos of herbal tea, didn't belong. That didn't bother her. Not at first. She had her spreadsheets, her algorithms, her quiet corner of the analytics team, where no one seemed to care if you preferred silence to gossip. But cruelty, like mold, crept in slowly. And by the time she noticed it fully, it was everywhere. It started with petty comments about her luncha, a home-packed kale salad mocked for being green like her bank account. Then it escalated. Files disappearing from her drive, deadlines shifted without notice, meetings that she was deliberately left out of. Her name became a punchline in the office Slack. One message even read, "Guess Maddie's too busy knitting her dignity to show up today." She had ignored it all, until the Coke can. Clarissa had been circling her all morning, a predator scented with Chanel, eyes gleaming with malicious glee. Madeline had been typing quietly, headphones in, when something cold exploded against her chest. Sticky liquid drenched her cardigan, splattering across her desk and soaking the printouts she'd been reviewing. "Oops," Clarissa said, her voice syrupy with fake concern. "Thought you needed a bath. Country girls like you don't get many showers, right?" A roar of laughter echoed through the open space. Darren kicked the leg of her chair, nearly knocking her sideways. "You're lucky we let you in the building." Across the aisle, Elena Cho, the junior designer, lifted her phone. "This is gold," she squealed. "Come on, Madeline. Give us a look of despair. My followers love a good fall from grace clip." Madeline stood slowly. Her hands trembled slightly, but her face remained calm. For a moment, it was as if something shifted in her eyes. Behind the humiliation, behind the soda dripping from her sleeves, there was something cold, something knowing. She didn't yell. She didn't fight. She simply walked away, back straight, toward the break room. Inside, away from the jeering crowd, she pulled out her phone and stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered over a single contact, Alex Rowan, her husband. The world knew him as Alexander Rowan, founder and CEO of Rowan Industries, a tech and infrastructure behemoth whose investments quietly held up half of Chicago's skyline. But to her, he was just Alex, the man she met at a university lecture on quantum computing, who'd once spilled coffee on her graphing calculator and spent a week trying to fix it with YouTube tutorials. No one at work knew about him. She wanted it that way. She wanted to prove she could succeed on her own, without the shadow of his empire shielding her. But today wasn't about pride. It was about survival. She hit dial. "Mads?" His voice came through instantly, warm and deep and grounding. She said nothing for a second. Just breathe. They did it again, she whispered. Worse this time. A pause. A dangerous one. Where are you? At the office. Don't move. The line went dead. Madeline stayed in the break room for 5 minutes, collecting herself before returning to her desk. Predictably, they were waiting. Back already? Clarissa drawled, arms folded. I figured you'd go crying back to the cornfield. Elena's phone was already out. Darren mimed, wiping a tear from his eye. She didn't respond. She didn't have to, because exactly 9 minutes later, the elevator dinged, and the entire mood of the floor shifted. Alex Rowan stepped out like thunder in human form. 6'3", steel gray suit, eyes that saw everything and missed nothing. The receptionist gasped. Someone at the back dropped their mouse. Clarissa's blood ran cold. He didn't even glance at the others. He walked straight to Madeline. Ready to go. She nodded, quietly, with dignity. Clarissa tried to recover. Mr. Rowan. Hi. What a surprise. Would you? He cut her off with a look so sharp it might have stopped her heart. I'm not here for pleasantries. He turned, scanning the room like a general on a battlefield. Which one of you has been harassing my wife? Wife. The word detonated in the silence. Clarissa blinked. Your wife. Yes. Madeline Rowan. My wife. And from what I hear, you've all forgotten what respect means. Elena paled. Darren's smugness cracked. Their voices caught in their throats. A manager, Richard Bowman, emerged from his glass office, trying to compose his face into something resembling authority. Mr. Rowan, I assure you. Alex didn't even let him finish. I own the controlling interest in Rothwell Group. That includes Valor. So let me make this clear. He pointed directly at Clarissa, then Darren, then Elena, and finally Richard. You're done. All 4 of you. Effective immediately. Clarissa's mouth dropped. You can't just. I can. And I have. Security will escort you out. You'll receive your severance via email, assuming you don't violate your NDAs on the way out. But try applying anywhere else in this city. I'll make sure every door stays shut. Richard stepped forward, sweating. Sir, I've been with the company for 11 years. I didn't know. You didn't want to know? Alex said coldly. That's worse. Clarissa's veneer cracked entirely. She lunged toward Madeline's desk, her voice rising into hysteria. You think you're better than us? Because you married rich. I'm married kind, Madeline said quietly. Clarissa's face contorted. Darren started shouting about favoritism. Elena wept, but it didn't matter. Security arrived. The 4 were marched out, still yelling. Co-workers who had stayed silent now looked everywhere, but at Madeline, guilt painted across their faces. As Alex took her hand and led her toward the elevator, Madeline looked back once not at the bullies, but at the bystanders. And in that moment, they saw her fully for the first time. Not as some quiet woman in a cardigan, but as someone who had stood tall under fire and never crumbled. In the weeks that followed, the story became legend. Clarissa posted a tearful apology online. It was mocked relentlessly. Darren tried suing for wrongful termination. He lost. Elena deleted every social media profile she had. Richard took early retirement and vanished from LinkedIn entirely. Madeline didn't return to Valor. She didn't need to. She began consulting independently, choosing her clients carefully. Small businesses, nonprofits, female-led startups. She helped them grow with the same quiet brilliance that Valor had mocked. Alex supported her every step of the way. Not with money, but with presence. With respect. One evening, on their balcony, watching the Chicago skyline gleam in the sunset, she turned to him. You didn't have to destroy them. He sipped his coffee, his eyes warm. They destroyed themselves. I just made sure they couldn't pretend otherwise. She leaned against him, content. Because in the end, power didn't come from titles or wealth. It came from knowing your worth and never letting anyone take it away.